Hello, friends, and welcome to Paris, or should I say, bienvenue à Paris. The retirist and I visited the City of Lights before our Amsterdam trip, so let's rewind a bit. On our first full day, we just had to go to our number one spot on our Paris bucket list, the Palace of Versailles. So Versailles is outside of the city, and rather than pay for a really expensive Uber or try to figure out public transportation, we booked a guided tour that included transportation. We booked with Get Your Guide, and it was a tour run by Paris City Visions. So we met our bus and enjoyed a comfortable ride to Versailles, which was about 30 to 40 minutes. As you can see, we are masking up and staying safe. There are too many bugs going around. We were given earbuds so that we could listen to our tour guide on a private radio because there are so many tours. So it's easy to get lost or not be able to hear. Our tour guide was very knowledgeable, but it felt kind of like a dull class lecture and not really engaging or entertaining. But I did enjoy this portrait of Louis XIV showing off his gams and looking like a bad bitch, which may allegedly possibly be the silhouette of a younger dancer. I digress. And also Marie Antoinette's quarters. Friends, I have to admit that after visiting so many beautiful castles and cathedrals across Europe and Mexico, Versailles didn't blow me away like I thought it would. I've literally dreamt of visiting the Hall of Mirrors, and let's just say my dreams were more captivating. Granted, these are very old mirrors, warped by hundreds of years of weather, and the busted reflections of millions of visitors, so maybe I was expecting too much, but they just look kind of dingy. So you can see this poor guard had to limp on his bad leg to tell my mother and I to stay away from the roped off section. Sorry. The gardens were really nice, and I think it would have been amazing had we visited during the warmer weather. Also, we did not book any extras like touring the private estates, and we were too late in the season for the fountain show. So maybe we'll have to go back and see those another time, but all in all, we were glad to visit. The next day, we were pleasantly surprised when we visited a site suggested by a friend that we had not previously heard of before, the Palais Garnier, which is an opera house and also hosts a small library, art gallery, and gift store. So we booked our tickets last minute, and I was able to snag some same-day tickets from Head Out Bookings. This is a great option if the usual sites like Viator and Get Your Guide are sold out. Now, it wouldn't be a Jean or Shanna trip if there wasn't some type of snafu. Remember this when we discussed our trip to the Louvre. So when we first got there was a huge crowd outside and we weren't sure what was going on. It was really confusing. As you can imagine, a huge crowd speaking a bunch of different languages, and not everyone understands French or English. It was a really windy day, and apparently this advertising tarp was smacking against the building and causing a commotion. So they were trying to fix that before we were able to get inside. But y'all, speaking of a Hall of Mirrors, now this is a Hall of Mirrors. It was so much more striking than Versailles. In fact, we were blown away by the whole building. The retirist is a fan of classic movies, and she said she felt transported back in time when men and women wore fancy gowns and capes and gossiped behind theater binoculars in the opera boxes. I definitely recommend a visit when you're in Paris. After that, we briefly stopped by Notre Dame, which is still closed due to the fire in 2019, but it's supposed to reopen late this year. Then we went right across the street to the legendary bookstore Shakespeare and Company. It was owned and operated by an American who opened it in the 1950s, and it grew into a hotspot for literary giants like Richard Wright and James Baldwin. Visitors are not allowed to record or take pictures inside, but it's a very quaint, magical little bookstore with reading nooks and worn chairs, an amazing collection of new and classic books. It is a book lover's dream. We enjoyed our time exploring, even if just for a short time, and grabbing some coffee at the cafe. And that is how we spent 2 days in Paris. Stay tuned for more.